Once the cycle of life and death has been broken and remade, we will...
By that time, I'll have been lost. And so will you. I only hope my friends will remember me as I was. Not what you made me to be.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. From the start of Shadowlands, our mission has been to save our faction leaders who were captured by Sylvanas' Mossworn, who were nearly turned into agents for the jailer. We of course were successful in our endeavors of saving Thrall, Jaina, and Bane. We were, however, unable to save Anduin from his grim fate, as he was turned into a weapon for the jailer and Sylvanas to be used for their schemes. It was because of Anduin that they achieved all of their remaining sigils from the Kyrian, Night Fae, and Necrolords, which of course is what has enabled the jailer to get to Zereth Mortis in the first place. We'll now be trailing on after him in this new realm, and we will eventually be fighting Anduin to better understand the magic that has made him serve, and hopefully we'll be able to save him. Which of course begs the question, is it too late? Anduin himself left us a message via his compass, in where he states the following.
Each time he dominates my will, I feel myself slipping further away. Is this what you felt when Arthas raised you, Sylvanas? Hollow, empty, everything you once were, consumed by darkness.
From that, we realize that we're on a time crunch then. The longer Anduin spends being broken and consumed by the jailer's magic, the less likely he'll be able to come back from it. He's slipping away and will soon be lost to us forever. Fortunately for us, we have both the Primus, who is a capable master of domination magic and was the very entity who created the likes of the Helm of Domination, aka the Lich King, and Sylvanas Windrunner, the very person who put Anduin in this particular predicament in the first place, who was also the jailer's second-in-command up until now. We even see a Sylvanas no longer wearing the colors of the Maw in the recent preview, supporting Uther, Jaina, and the raid as they confront a still-possessed Anduin. It's my own belief that because Sylvanas was restored her entire soul, she might actually feel bad for all that she's done, and is on a course to correct her mistakes. Starting with Anduin isn't a far-fetched idea, considering how many times the young king had tried to help her even when she had done the worst to him. Returning that favor, especially since you're responsible for his state, would be the right call, and we know Uther is helping her out in finding herself, after she had, well, lost herself. But we'll talk more about Sylvanas another time. The point being, we do have a few things in our favor at the least. The biggest things I've noticed about Anduin's state is that Anduin himself has not been killed and raised like many Death Knights, Scourge, or Forsaken. Instead, his corruption lies instead with his very armor and sword. The runes glow up whenever he's to heed the will of the jailer. So, much like when we confronted Ner'zhul in the Sanctum of Domination, we'll have to rip that armor and sword away from him. Speaking of that sword, Kingsmorn, as it is called, was once Charlemagne. It has been reforged to suit the purposes of the jailer. Whether its splitting sword function that Varrock and Varian had each displayed will affect it remains to be seen. It would be cool if that's how a part of Charlemagne survives, but I've got my doubts that the sword is salvageable after this. Another thing to point out about the sword, that could be part of what is influencing Anduin is the soul fragment that resides inside of it. We saw how the jailer plucked out a large crystal from a portal and gave it to the weaponsmith to be used in reforging Charlemagne. And we saw this again when he returned a part of Sylvanas' soul to her. This makes me think that Anduin isn't currently alone, and that one of the many souls that has been collected inside of the Maw in Torghast is now inside of Kingsmorn. Or, as I like to call it, Shalamorn. My current bets are on either Arthas or Nathanos. Both souls were corrupted by domination magic and had an influence on Sylvanas and partially Anduin. So, two perfect subjects to juice up some drama and conflict. Nathanos has weirdly been MIA since his death at the hands of Tyrande, which, by the way, thank you Tyrande for that, to the point where even Sylvanas was unaware of his demise, but it still lines up that his soul could potentially be used for Kingsmorn. But I'm leaning more towards Arthas at this time, as the blade is called Kingsmorn, and what better soul to use than the very soul of the Lich King? Runs off the name a little bit better if you use a king, like, come on. Plus, that would explain the uncanny resemblance that Anduin and Arthas have when they are each corrupted by their Mournblades. It's very weird how they both look like each other, both when they're alive and dead. It's weird. Plus, we've been dying to see Arthas once again, which I think comes whenever Anduin is freed or possibly killed. Ugh. There could be other methods to restore or save Anduin that I'm not aware of, but I do believe that Anduin at the very least will survive, and I think his armor and weapon are the key. That, or maybe Varian, Tiffin, Jaina, Bolvar, Bane, or Sylvanas. Really, anyone will step in to do something. But I do not think he'll be coming out of this completely alright, either. I suspect he'll either be very drained from this whole endeavor, perhaps even to the point where a lot of his idealism for peace might have been hit. He could also walk away from this as a Forsaken, and will likely even be rejected if he even tries to return home in Stormwind like that. Which would give Turalyon, the current regent leader of the Alliance, even more influence over Stormwind and Alliance if the crown was lost, corrupted, dead, aged, or so on. You get the point. Which of course would obviously lead to many conflicts on Azeroth to be resolved for later. Which I do think is going to happen regardless, but once again, that's for another time. I do think there's a high chance Anduin is going to come out of this differently, both in physical and mental terms. There's also the matter that I think I've pointed out in prior videos, where Anduin is destined to one day lead the armies and forces of Azeroth to one day face off against the ultimate evil. It's hard to pinpoint whether this future is even possible anymore, but I wouldn't write it off yet. Velen, the one that had this vision, has seen Anduin as an aged old man aboard what seems like either the Vindicar or the Exodar, as they ready for the final battle. Notably, Shalamorn is missing from the picture as well when they're aboard this vessel. So, will Anduin survive and be saved? I personally think so, but I think at the same time there will be consequences for what's been done to him. I think he'll be warped, and I think he'll be changed by this experience. He'll likely have to overcome these changes and become better from it. Maybe he's been aged up similar to Khadgar. Maybe he is forever fighting against the remnants of Zovol, similar to how his father had conflicts against his own alter ego. Ultimately, I do think Anduin can or will be saved, but there's always the chance he isn't coming back home with us either. But what do you think? Do you think Anduin is lost forever? Do you think he'll come out of this as a different man? Do you think Shalamorn, or Charlemagne, will be coming back with him? Let me know all of your thoughts and ideas down below. Subscribe if you like these videos, support me on my various other social medias. You can also join us on the Skull Shorties Discord, where we talk about all sorts of stuff. And if you like me enough, you can support me on Patreon like these amazing folks here. But until next time, guys,